What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. Wildcard Weekend. Super Wildcard Weekend, excuse me. As Tony Romo reminded us constantly, Super Wildcard Weekend. One game left, Monday Night Football. Cowboys at Bucks. But we know a lot about what's going to happen with the future schedule. We had an exciting weekend of football. There's a recap of Saturday and those two games in the feed. We're going to talk about the three games on Sunday. Joining me to do so, Ryan Wilson and a fully decked out in Bengals gear, John Breech. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Breech, what was your level of excitement pre-Tyler Huntley jump over the line and fumble and post-Tyler Huntley jump over the line and fumble?
Well, first, I will just say I'm emotionally spent. I don't even know how much I'll be able to participate in this podcast because there is nothing left inside of me. I let it all out during this game. I think I almost woke my toddler who was sleeping at least 3 times, which is a record because I'm usually pretty quiet. And my confidence, you guys asked me at halftime, and I said it was basically a coin flip. I felt it was going to be tight, and then I was 52% Bengals, 48% Ravens. So by the time Baltimore got down there in a 17-17 game, I'm thinking, man, if Baltimore scores here, I'm just going to tear off my clothes and go to bed and give up because I'm done. I mean, that's what it felt like because the Bengals could not move the ball after the first quarter. So that is what my percentage was like. Done. That's it. I was going to go to bed.
So precise. Not that we're going to dive into the Ravens first. We're not. Just a requiem for my Super Bowl pick before the season and one of my draft picks in our Super Bowl draft. If they had Lamar Jackson in this game, they're beating the Bengals with the way that those two teams played. So, Breech, with that in mind, given how the Bengals played against the Ravens at, what do we think, 70, 82, 80, 87% strength?
Who?
The Ravens.
No. Lamar Jackson didn't play.
What percent is Lamar Jackson of their total?
They're 64%, and the Bengals were at 73%.
Okay, that's all I was asking. So if what is your concern level with the Bengals moving forward? Because the way that they've been playing down the stretch, a little bit similar to the Bills, who they will play next week, and we'll get into that later. Not an inspiring game from Cincinnati. They won the game. They won at home. A down and dirty AFC North playoff battle. A win is a win. But, I mean, it doesn't feel like you don't come out of this thinking, oh, yeah, we're about to torch the world and go win the Super Bowl, right?
No, I don't not think that. Look, I said during the week, and I wrote in my picks that I thought this was going to be a close game. My predicted final score was 27-17. You don't want to be playing a divisional opponent in the playoffs because they know you well.
Unless you're the 49ers.
And there's also the mystery of element. The Bengals were just the second team in NFL history that played a team 3 times in the playoffs, and that team started a different quarterback in all 3 games. Lamar Jackson, Anthony Brown, Tyler Huntley. So the Ravens were able to have kind of this mystery element with their offense. I mean, you do know what Tyler Huntley can do, but it's still someone you haven't seen. So you basically saw 3 different versions of Baltimore's offense. So man, this was just totally survive and advance. I did not, there was no negative connotation for me that this was close. It was just, please don't lose because team is good enough to win the Super Bowl, but you can't win the Super Bowl if you lose in the wild card round. So yes, there is not like, I don't losing.
Okay. I'm not trying to spin it negatively. I'm just curious.
Oh, no. Well, I was going to say that losing Jonah Williams, that's obviously the big hit. Losing your starting left tackle, Jackson Carman actually acquitted himself pretty well in the second half, but that would be my biggest concern that going forward, whether it's Buffalo or if Cincinnati makes it to the AFC title game, Kansas City or Jacksonville, the offensive line gets beat up because you now have 3 backups in there.
So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out because, 60% of the offensive line, the starting offensive line, is out. Jonah Williams grabbed his knee when he went to the ground. He did walk off the field. I don't know what that means for next weekend, but for Saturday, Sunday night, it wasn't great. That said, Joe Burrow didn't set the world on fire. He only threw for 209, but it was 23-32. But he didn't hold the ball. And we saw early in the season and last year in the Super Bowl, of course, Breech, he took an absolute whipping. He only got sacked 4 times. Do you feel good about that? Is that a good sign, or is it a function of Marlon Humphrey being so afraid to get burned by Jamar Chase that he was just playing off every single snap and every 3-step drop? Joe Burrow was going to throw it to him no matter what.
Again, I am okay with it. Look, Joe Burrow only threw for under 225 yards 6 times this year, and 3 of them were against the Ravens. So it just the Ravens, after getting torched by him last year, he had that 520-yard game or whatever it was. And
you wouldn't stop talking about it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I love talking about it. But so they said, all right, we're not going to let that happen this year. We're just going to let our pass rush get after him, kind of drop everyone back and dare him to take these short routes, which he can't do if he's being rushed. And that's what they did. I mean, the Ravens just had an excellent defensive game plan all 3 times they faced the Bengals. And so all it was is, hey, look, if he can throw for whatever 200 and whatever odd yards, 209 and win, then more the power to the Bengals that you could have your quarterback not have a great night. He was sharp, but and still win. So that's really, for me, what it comes down to is that Burrow doesn't have to play perfect and this team can still win in the playoffs.
I'm going to throw this out there, and I know this is not the time to throw this out there, but I believe it. Like, I really do believe it. I think that if you separated everything, like coach, offensive, and I know that Burrow has great weapons. I would not be. I think if you do the franchise draft, right? You're the first overall pick. You can take any player in the NFL. Age, contract not involved. Age matters, but you don't get their coach, you don't get their offensive line or whatever. I think I might take Joe Burrow.
Okay, you're an NC State fan. Anyway, what I want to ask,
but I mean, like, I'll take the dogs.
I have completely brainwashed Brinson.
Mahomes and Josh Allen and Justin Herbert are physically much bigger freaks than Joe Burrow. But man, I don't know. Joe Burrow just is a killer.
I love Joe Burrow, but I was the person after the Joe Burrow draft that said to Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn, I'm taking Joe Burrow over Trevor Lawrence, who was coming out the subsequent year, and they both said we're taking Trevor Lawrence. I felt good about it then. I feel even better about it now, but I'm not willing to. That's a bridge too far for Bridge.
The top 4 are Lawrence. It's Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Lawrence. It's the top 4 in some order.
No, it's not. Justin Herbert is way ahead of Trevor Lawrence. If you put them put either one of those teams, put those one of those players.
But that's the top 5 though. That's the top 5.
Well, that's a conversation. I mean, Geno Smith's in there, but whatever. Here's the question I wanted to ask.
This is a bullet on the rocks. Thank you for asking.
Let me ask Breech a question. So, Breech, in terms of nervousness, because I think you're right. This is just a game that you win and you worry about everything else in the subsequent weeks. But I'm going to ask you a handful of questions here, and just you can tell me now or before. That's all you have to say. Were you more nervous about this game or last year's Raiders playoff game?
More nervous about this game, but last year was a different feeling because you never. When your team hasn't won a playoff game in 31 years, you never go into the game thinking they are going to win. So, but I was more nervous about this one. I just felt like, especially after watching the Bills-Dolphins game, which we'll talk about later, I was like, my God, it's just this is going to be the Bengals-Ravens game.
More nervous about this game or the Titans game, because at that point they had already won their first playoff game in 4,000 years.
Yeah, I wasn't nervous about the Titans game. I just felt like they were playing with house money. They got the big thing out of their way. No one thought they were a Super Bowl contender last year. They got the playoff win out of the way. That's all any Bengals fan wanted at that point last season. So it was like, all right, if they can go into Nashville and win, awesome. But if they don't, it's still considered a successful season. If they lose this wildcard game against the Ravens, it is not considered a successful season.
All right, well, the follow-up is going to be the Chiefs game and then the Super Bowl. How they compare to this game? Which ones? Any of those games made you more nervous than this super wild card matchup at home?
The Super Bowl, yes, but again, the Chiefs game, it was the house money thing where it was like, if they lose, they lose.
So
but
you're
now
really nervous about this game.
Well, there was an expectation. You're the favorite team. You're expected to win, and if you lose to a backup quarterback when you have a Super Bowl contending team, you don't want that. That's embarrassing.
Losing to the Ravens in this spot would have been worse than the Steelers' loss when Vontaze Burfict ran into the tunnel.
Oh, way by a million miles, of course. But I mean,
you're an 8-point favorite at home in a wild card round playoff against a divisional rival who's starting their backup quarterback and their starting quarterback, Lamar Jackson, who is dealing with a PCL injury, but hasn't signed a contract, didn't travel with the team, is represented by himself, and yet the recently acquired off-ball linebacker, Roquan Smith, who's also represented by himself, got a $100 million contract as Lamar's away from the team. Like, if you lose to that team as an 8-point favorite, as the Bengals, this is where I come in and say this season is a disaster and a disappointment.
And I would have absolutely agreed with that.
That's very off brand for you. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. I was curious and Breech's feelings as a Bengals fan and how it rated towards last year, which was a complete surprise for, I think, most people except for probably Joe Burrow.
Oh, well, the one thing I will say is that, look, you look at last year's playoff run, and Joe Burrow and the offense, they made key plays when they had to. For instance, getting him in the field goal range against the Titans to set up the game-winning field goal by McPherson, and the same thing against the Chiefs. When they had to come up with big plays, they did. For the most part, the defense carried them through the playoffs, and that is exactly what happened in this Sunday night game, where the Bengals came out on fire. You go up 9-0, and then just almost nothing. The offense just goes in a coma for the rest of the game, and then you don't see anything else until really, I mean, this fumble return touchdown is one of the craziest plays in the history of the NFL playoffs. I mean, we're talking about one of the widest swings. It was the longest fumble return in NFL playoff history. It was the longest touchdown in Bengals playoff history, and it was the longest go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter of an NFL
was
playoff
it
game.
crazier than the play that Brinson just mentioned, the Vontez perfect play, and then the subsequent Pac-Man Jones and Joey Porter nonsense? I don't think so.
I mean,
No, but it was like, oh, well, that changed everything about this game. Where there were several moments like this all weekend long, where these big underdogs in these sort of divisional matchups had a chance. You make a play, and all of a sudden it flips the game, and the favorite is very nervous. And this is one of them. I mean, if Huntley scores that, I mean, and what is it? Literally a game of inches. He's what, 3 or 4 inches from getting the ball?
He might as well have been 4 feet short. I said this.
It felt really short.
I said this at the time when we were watching. I have no idea what he was doing. I'm sure he wasn't coached to do that. And I don't want to dump on Huntley because he did a lot of things well and exceeded probably everyone's expectations, including John Harbaugh's. But if you're running that play, all you do is run Patrick Ricard in motion. He stops behind Tyler Huntley, and Tyler Huntley just takes the ball, and then Patrick Ricard throws you into the end zone. There's absolutely no reason to jump over the pile from that far away.
You're going to love this then. Here's what John Harbaugh said after the game, because that was obviously one of the first questions he got. Harbaugh said Tyler Huntley was supposed to go low on the decisive sneak. And then he said, quote, "We just didn't execute right there," unquote.
This Ravens team feels a little, I mean, and I almost went to, look, this Ravens team feels a little, I'm not cursed, but just, when Lamar went out and.
Well, even before that, they lost
well,
it.
Real quick on that play, you guys think
digits.
that, and this is a serious question, do you think Tyler Huntley watched that Jacksonville game on Saturday night, saw Trevor Lawrence go over the top, and he thought, oh, I bet I can do that? Because you don't see quarterbacks do that often. And for him, if the play call
special, and somehow he's the guy that does it.
Right. And if the play call was for him to go low, then why else would he go high unless he saw a quarterback pull it off?
I think that's a good question.
It's one of those things, Breech, you wonder if they just do it so often in practice. And I would imagine when you do walkthroughs, you're not actually diving forward or diving low. But now in retrospect, you wonder if Greg Roman should have said in his ear, please, for the love of God, whatever you do, don't pull a Drew Brees. Don't pull Trevor Lawrence. Don't pull.
Depending on where you want to go with the football as a quarterback, if you're jumping over the line, you want your lineman sort of blocking up, like out and up. But if you're diving into the pile, you want your lineman like diving down and blocking down, so you can sort of create gap and somebody coming behind you.
Well, he was too far away to even try that maneuver. Trevor Lawrence and his go gadget arms isn't scoring from where Tyler Huntley tried to score. Again,
my size.
We're living in an era where all you do is have someone run in motion, and we see the Chiefs do this. They have Travis Kelce go in motion and then take the snap from under center himself, and then they push him. I mean, this is you could run this play a million times, and I actually joked that I think that play call or Tyler Huntley's decision to do what he did. And again, he played 95% of what he did on Sunday night was beneficial to the Ravens' chances of winning, but this was idiotic. And I think that 3rd and 1 end around that it turns out Trevor, what's his name? Justin Herbert changed the play into last night, that there was in around that hit Bandy and went 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage. This was even worse than that. And they were both
worse than the Justin Jefferson to Kirk Cousins throwback.
So, yeah, man. I mean, this is a game changer, depending on which sort of analytics win percentage place you follow. The win percentage for the Ravens went from anywhere from it would have been north of 65 or 70% to well below 50% by that.
Apparently, some of the commenters, by the way, are under the impression that Breech is wearing a thong. I don't know where they got that information from.
Someone just listened for the first time, said they thought Breech, they had never seen him before. They thought he looked like Richie Cunningham. So that's awesome.
It's very nice. All right. Okay. Anything else from this game? We'll
I will just
circle
say,
back to the future matchups. Just anything else from this game in particular?
John Harbaugh, if you're a Ravens fan, you're probably not thrilled with the way he handled that
Oh,
final
you're
few
right.
minutes.
Oh my God.
I mean, this is a playoff game we're talking about. He was playing like he had 0 timeouts.
He said 35 seconds on fire minimum.
The specific play was, yes, it was just under 120 left when I think Dobbins caught an 11-yard pass. And the next time they snapped the ball, there was 34 seconds left. So they burnt literally 35 seconds when they either should have been moving faster or called a timeout because they had 2 timeouts at that point. And it was like, I was thinking in my head, he's playing this like he doesn't want the Bengals to get the ball back, which is fine. If you're down by a field goal, you can play that way because you have the safety net of we can kick the field goal if we don't get the touchdown.
He was going for 2. He was playing to go for 2. 100% was going to go for 2.
You can't burn 35 seconds off the clock.
So 34 seconds left. They snap the ball. Huntley throws an incompletion, and the next play is a draw to Justice Hill.
All that said, though, should James Prochet have caught that ball in the end zone?
I mean, man, that would have been. Breech wouldn't be here right now if Prochet catches that. I mean, I wouldn't be if I were a Bengals fan.
Did that ball feel like it was in the air for 10 seconds?
It was
Breech, as you were watching it live?
Breech impaled on that little tiny Christmas tree behind it, where he'd be lying on his like. I don't know. That's
man. It was just it's like he lost his awareness of where the ball was because it got hit a couple times.
There's a lot of
I held my breath on that. I will just tell you that was not.
I audibly streaked in my living room. My dog George woke up. He's like, "Whoa, what's going on?" I was like, "Prochet almost called."
Well, I'm glad you didn't pass out from holding your breath, Breech.
Oh my God!
Yeah, crazy. All right, Giants and Vikings. Phew, boy. I mean, I tell you, we had a good weekend of football, fellas. The Giants.
Shout out to Brian L in the comments. He's been with us all season. Tough loss, man. I appreciate your you sticking up for your team, and I'm sorry that they lost the way they did. Go ahead, Brinson. I just want to get
who's he talking about?
Oh, Brian L.
One of our loyal commenters who also
happens to be a huge Vikings fan, and he always has to defend their honor over the course of the season, and they finally lost, so he can move on to supporting.
Look, I think I can't remember who said it to me. I think maybe RJ White said it earlier in the picture this week, but it was like, I kept mentioning the Giants as the 2022 version of the 2017 Bills. When Sean McDermott showed up and they won more games than they should have, and they made it to the playoffs and they overachieved, et cetera, et cetera. It's very possible the Vikings are kind of the same team too, with better personnel around them. My buddy Josh Saldine, who's a huge Vikings fan, we ended up texting for a long time, but I was like, where do you stand on this? Because we had the conversation mid-season about if the Vikings go win 13 games and lose in the first round, what is this season? Like, is this a season, disappointment, et cetera, et cetera? And Saldine's point was, as a huge Vikings fan, is that it's optimistic about the future. Wherever it goes at quarterback, Kirk Cousins is getting old. He's got 1 year left on his deal, but obviously disappointed by the ending of the season. Now, I don't think, and if I'm reading wrong, he can text me and tell me, but like this season wasn't a failure for the Vikings. It's just a disappointment, right?
I'll pass on to you. What Richard Clark passed on to me and Breech on Twitter earlier this evening. How often will you and Breech ask Brinson if this was a successful season for the Vikings tonight? This is going to be hilarious. So you can answer your own question.
Look, I mean, the playoffs are tough, man. The 2007 Patriots didn't lose a game until the final week of the season. It is a 1-week elimination tournament. You were not.
What's the short answer?
I don't think the Vikings season is a disappointment.
You just said that the Bengals season You just said the Bengals season would have been a disappointment had they lost to the Ravens
because of the high expectations given where the Bengals were last year.
This team won 13 games.
But given how I think about the Vikings, they went 11-0 in 1-score games. We've been saying all season this team is flirting with disaster. They are getting lucky. They are winning close games. That's awesome. That's unlikely to continue in perpetuity. And it didn't against the other 1-score game team, the Giants. I would not look at this Vikings season and say, man, what a disaster for the Vikings.
This season is a huge disappointment from my perspective.
Hard disagree.
Breech, where are you?
I don't think it's a huge disappointment. I think I'm right in the middle of you guys because, look, I don't think anyone thought this team was going to win the Super Bowl. So it becomes, how far did you expect them to advance? Again, at home, you're a favorite. That's not a great look to lose that kind of game. But when you look back on the season and you look at where the Vikings were when Kevin O'Connell took over, and he came in here in his first year. He won a division title after this team had not made the playoffs for 2 straight seasons. They won 13 games, like you said. So I do think this is one of those where you are disappointed right now. But when you look back on the season on March 1st, you're going to be like, you know what? That was a good season, and I'm optimistic about the future, and maybe we can win some games. But the one thing I will say is that we have dumped on Kirk Cousins a lot, and the final play for the Vikings was literally epitomized every issue I have with Kirk Cousins. Like, look, hey, great. He's an accurate quarterback. He makes big throws once in a while, but checking down on
you have to throw
with the game on the line. What
you have to throw the sticks. Like Derek Carr fans, Andy Dalton fans, Kirk Cousins fans get mad when you criticize them about this. But this is the same problem that all these guys have is it is 4th down. Your season is on the line. You cannot throw the ball short of the sticks unless the play call is such that it's designed like a Tyreek Hill is coming across the middle and you're getting the ball in his hands and you want to let him work upfield.
He dropped it.
This is man coverage with a guy nearby and you threw 3 yards short of the sticks. You can't do that. A semi-decent tackle is going to stop him. Now, having said that, the Vikings won 13 games this year.
They still had a successful season.
They won 13 games in 2017. Do you know the last time they won 13 games before that or more?
When Randy Moss was there?
1998.
Brian Billick in the house. That was a good call.
No, that was the NFC title game year, right?
Brian Billick was the OC and
Oh yeah.
I'm not.
If you want to crown their ass, crown their ass was the head coach.
Denny
Green.
Denny Green.
R.I.P. buddy.
I'm not suggesting.
And Gary Anderson was field goal. Sorry, I don't want to bring up bad Vikings memory. Sorry.
I'm not suggesting Vikings fans should be happy with the outcome this season. If I were a Vikings fan, I'd be pissed too. I'm not saying that you look at the season and say, man, we really crushed it this year. But you won 13 games, 11 wins in 1-score games, an NFL record, 10 comeback wins, which ties the NFL record, 8 fourth-quarter comeback wins, which ties the NFL record. You were playing with fire the entire season to win 13 games and then draw the Giants of all teams.
You mean of all teams?
Well,
That's not a terrible draw. It's a team you certainly could beat.
They're 3-point favorite at home. It's a coin flip.
Yeah, because their point differential was -1. And Breech, I wanted to ask you something about that. You mentioned that O'Connell came in and things were better. But if your point differential is worse this year than it was last year, are they better?
Well, you're winning the close games, which is what the Vikings' biggest issue was. So, it's
that's
one issue at a time, Ron.
Okay.
Fix one thing at a time.
All right, let me say something else too. And we've been all hard on Kirk Cousins, and I don't know if I've been on the bandwagon.
Let's move on, please.
Let me finish this. So I know we've all been hard on Kirk Cousins, and I don't know if I'm on the driving the bandwagon if we're sitting 3 across in the front seat. But I just wanted to point this out, and then we can talk about my new guy, Daniel Jones. Purple FTP Pod on Twitter, and he's actually a great follow if you're a Vikings fan and just in general. He tweeted this out, and he's been harping on this, and all Vikings fans have, and even Pat P may agree with this, but Ed Donatel, defense coordinator, has not done a great job. So here's some of the stats that Purple FTP put out on Twitter after the game when people were crushing Kirk Cousins, like YouTube buttholes were for the decision to throw a 3-yard pass on 4th and 8, which I was fine with. So here it is. 10 of 18 games, they've allowed 400 plus yards. This defense has 11 of 18 games. They've allowed 24 plus 4 points, 427 points allowed all season, ranked 28th. 6,600 yards allowed is 31st. 6.9 net passing yards is 30th, and on it goes. So 27th in defensive DVOA. So Kirk Cousins, I thought, played okay in this game, but to your point, that last play was a microcosm of Kirk Cousins in prime time. But any defense out there that wasn't this Vikings defense, and they probably have a much better chance of winning this game. And quickly, I want to ask you guys, Brinson, I'll ask you because you should know by now. What is Geno Smith's full name?
Eugene Cyril Smith III.
Do you know who Daniel Stephen Jones III is?
Yeah, man. Dude, look, I'll tell you what. 2 dudes who made themselves some money.
The third.
Okay. One, Brian Dable is like
the third.
We were making fun of Nick Costos on this text thread because he's like, my head coach is Brian Dable. I can't believe it. I said, that's not a good Nick Costos impression. My head coach is Brian Dable. Like, but Brian Dable is a great head coach. If you put him in charge of the Bengals, that team is winning 2 Super Bowls in the next 5 years. No offense, Zach Taylor.
We've all been high on Brian Dable. You're not breaking any news.
No, I'm just saying, like, what he's getting out of the Giants is really incredible. And you look at what Daniel Jones did under previous coaches, Pat Shurmur and Joe Judge. And this is a no bleep Sherlock thing, but because those guys are not great at their jobs, Brian Dable is a really, really good head coach. And they're getting the most out of Daniel Jones. They're getting the most out of Saquon Barkley. They're getting the most out of Darius Slayton. They're getting the most out of Isaiah Hodgins. They're getting the most out of Ricky James. Or is it Ricky James? They're getting, like, they are maximizing talent at the skill position level, and they've got this defense cooking. Dexter Lawrence, I don't know if you guys saw Dexter Lawrence against Garrett Bradbury. It looked like
Your rookie of the
trying
year.
to block the Incredible Hulk.
I saw Dexter Lawrence get flagged for a roughing the passer, which was, I thought,
That
very
was garbage.
well earned.
One of my buddies who's a State fan texted. He said, I could backpedal faster than Garrett Bradbury trying to block another man. I mean, I can't run back faster than Garrett Bradbury being pushed back into the quarterback. Dexter, like, this Giants team is a little frisky. I know that certain factions of this podcast are not concerned with the Giants because they're the Eagles. They have this long history of winning lots of games. The Giants have a little bit of, like, a little juice to them. Like, a little. I like the Giants. I usually hate the Giants. I've always hated the Giants.
And it's crazy because every time they get to the playoffs, I mean, obviously not 2016, but the time before that, 2011, no one thought they were going to do anything. Win the Super Bowl. 2007, no one thought they were going to do anything. Win the Super Bowl. So it is weird. And, to your point, it's like what Brian Dable's done with Daniel Jones has been nothing short of miraculous. And I think
$30 million this offseason. That's just a no-brainer.
We saw the biggest argument for just how big of a difference a coach can be this weekend. When we saw Doug Peterson and what he did in Jacksonville after Urban Meyer was out, and we saw what Brian Dable did in New York. So you bring in the right coach and your team can flip in a season. That's it. You can go from good to bad. And I mean, this was just, he was so accurate and he looked good and he was composed, and it was just crazy seeing Daniel Jones play like this. This might've been his best game of the season, but then the other part of it,
his career,
the Vikings defense, though, this was not
the laugh riot.
Well, I mean, like, what they're just letting Daniel Jones run on. They're like, we're not going to have a spy. We're not going to do anything. If he has an open lane, we're just going to give it to him. And he's just going to go get his yards because we don't. It's like they didn't care. They didn't take him seriously as a running threat.
So, I mean, I do think that if you look at, so Kevin O'Connell comes from the Sean McVay tree. The one thing Sean McVay did I always go back to this is his first year in Los Angeles. He hired Wade Phillips as his DC, and he basically was like, I don't know what I don't know. And Wade, I want you to just handle the defense, and I'm going to be a CEO and then run the offense and do all that. And I think Kevin O'Connell probably tried to do that and just didn't pick the right guy. And this Vikings defense was a disaster. Like they weren't anybody near these Giants wide receivers. They could do whatever they want. I mean, Daniel Bellinger's not even close to being touched on a 3rd and goal play. I mean, the whole thing was a disaster. But Daniel Jones, I'm not sure how they're going to do this. I would think that I would get, if I had to guess, however the season ends for the Giants, Daniel Jones signs a team-ish friendly or friendly-ish, team friendly-ish contract.
Why would he do that? Why would he do that?
30 to 35 million a year.
Okay. Yeah. My next question was going to be, well, hold on. Yesterday
Hold
on. Just relax. We're not going anywhere. We're all here together. Breech talked you into the Geno Smith deal yesterday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Geno Smith and Daniel Jones feel like they're in the same boat, except one's 7 years older than the other. And I feel like they're both going to be making the same amount of money, which feels, if you think 35 is team friendly, then I agree with that. But he ain't taking like a Andy Dalton type second-year contract.
No. I think, well, the problem for the Giants is ownership loves Daniel Jones and they love Saquon Barkley.
Saquon. That's problem solved.
What's that?
Just franchise Saquon.
That's what I'm saying. Well, if you'd let me finish, I was going to say that Daniel Jones will sign the team friendly-ish deal that's like $35 to $38 million a year, well below that 40 range where people really get mad. Ton of money. It's 3 years, nothing long term. He's still young, and then they tag Barkley, and you bring this core back because this team there's some stuff on this team that's really interesting. I would not. I think Philly will probably smoke them because Philly's much deeper and better across the board. But depending on the line, do you know what the line is? Have you looked?
Windsor Wilson's going to be -5.5, and I'm taking the Giants.
You are low.
7.5.
Taking the Giants.
7.5. Oof.
Breech and or Brinson, do either of you want to apologize, as people are pointing out in the comments, to Dave Gettleman for putting this team together?
No, I will never apologize to Dave Gettleman. He hired Joe Judge. First of all, I love Dexter Lawrence. I never complained about that pick.
No, this is like putting the car together and you forgot to put the engine in. Like hiring the coach is part of the process. That's part of your job as a general manager. So you whiffed a couple times.
He's like, here's your cheeseburger. You're like, this is a bun and cheese and lettuce and tomato, man. Like,
where's the meat? Where's the meat?
Where's the meat?
Where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
No, look, Dave Gettleman's personnel evaluation is not like terrible. He's had a lot of good picks. He drafted Christian McCaffrey.
He got crushed for that. I get it why he got crushed.
But he could have. Okay, we're not going to go off on a tangent on this. He could have drafted Daniel Jones later than he did, and he probably could have drafted Dexter Lawrence later than he did. His problem is his inherent inability to understand value in the draft, not his personnel evaluation. So,
by the way, quickly, someone asked in the comments what I think the Vikings should do in the first round. I have a mock draft coming up tomorrow. I have him taking safety Brian Branch at Alabama, who also plays in the slot primarily. I think he could have helped this team immensely today.
All right, you pick. You're a Vikings fan or a Giants fan moving forward. Who would you rather be?
I'm taking the Giants, and you're trying to jump on my Brian Dable bandwagon. I've been driving that little Yugo all by myself.
What are you talking about? What?
Yeah, I'm not slowing down. Just waving at you as I speed by 35 miles an hour. Got that thing.
You think you're like driving something? You're like in one of those little things that transport cars, and there's like 100 cars with you, and you're pressing the gas pedal, and your car's not going anywhere.
I look behind me, and you're sitting in the clown car on the car carrier.
Everyone loves Brian Dable. He's great.
But here's the thing: what I wanted to say, I'm taking the Giants, and the reason I was made that little preface is because I'm going to keep beating this drum until it becomes sort of law in the NFL. I think Kevin O'Connell did a great job. He should get some votes for Coach of the Year. I don't disagree with any of that. I love Brian Dable.
He will get first place votes for Coach.
I love Brian Dable for this reason only. He developed quarterbacks pretty much everywhere he's been as an offensive coordinator. He made the executive decision not to call plays and do his job, and he crushed his job. Kevin O'Connell, Brandon Staley, all the young guys. Doug Peterson apparently is the exception. They're calling plays and they're struggling to make it happen. Zach Taylor still calls OC plays too, right, Breech?
No, but he and who's the
Brian Callahan's OC, but I think Zach.
He Brian Callahan like coordinate on it. No,
but my larger story is that I appreciate Brian Dable for understanding and putting his ego aside and being willing to do his job and doing it at such a high level.
It's like what I was saying about Sean McVay. I know what I don't know. He knows he can coach a team. He doesn't know if he can call plays and coach a team at the same time. So take something off your plate, give it to your boy Ken Dorsey, who you trust. It is the ultimate thing when you look at businesses or the government or football or anything. If you properly delegate responsibility to people you trust and they do well, you will succeed more often than not.
Well, since we're talking about real quick, O'Connell and who calls plays and whatnot. And also since Wilson roasted the Chargers for their horrible 4th and 1 play call, there was a play in this game by the Vikings on
Dorsey, what am I talking about? Sorry.
3rd and 1, where they decided to run a trick play that involved a pass to Kirk Cousins thrown by Justin Jefferson. What was your thoughts on that, Wilson?
I love the fact that Kirk Cousins caught the ball and then tried to break like 3 tackles. Just go down and take the L and then go to the sidelines and yell at Kevin O'Connell for calling that stupid ass play.
On 3rd and 1. And that's a big play.
That's like I'm trying to I don't even know if there's a comparison where you take one of the best players on planet Earth and throw it to one of the worst players on athletes on planet Earth and then be upset that the play didn't work out.
But like the worst part was like it was a slow developing throw back. So like by the time Cousins got it, he started to act like he was going to run. Like if you're gonna call that play, it has to be Cousins gets the ball and immediately you have two receivers. One is like breaking deep and one is breaking across as like a look back for the quarterback. It was,
but Cousins caught it like, ooh, in practice. This always tricks our defense. There's no one out there in practice. And he gets there, he looks, he's like, holy God, there's 2 defenders. What do I do? I'm done.
Yeah. Anyway, Dorsey replaced Brian Dable. That was my fault. Forget all these, you deal with all these. Andy Reid. I guess are they technically Andy Reid tree guys?
I don't know. I don't believe in trees.
I think everyone's an Andy Reid tree guy.
Only Breech does because
there's a tree above Breech's shoulder, man.
That's because I plant trees, and that tree. Someone on Twitter cheered that the Bengals won because the tree stays up for another week.
One person cheered on Twitter. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Bills Dolphins, a little closer than Buffalo would have liked. Next. All right, Wilson, as our resident William Mary Homer.
Oh yeah. They're going to say Central New Yorker.
And Brinson's gone, so you just have to assume what he was going to ask you.
Oh, I looked up. I said, I was saying a little prayer. I said, hope Brinson disappears. I looked up. He was gone, Breech. So let me ask this question before Brinson comes back. And I asked it weekly. Are you at all concerned about Josh Allen?
And I say every week, yes, I am concerned about Josh Allen. And I pointed out a couple times that this win streak they're on that's gone since November has been carried by their run game offensively and their defense. And Josh Allen has played okay football. I mean, he made some spectacular throws, but he's also made so many just mind-numbingly horrible turnovers that you just kind of shake your head thinking every week it happens. You think it's not going to happen next week. There's no way it can happen next week. He's just, it was the elbow injury. It was whatever. He'll move past this. And he has not moved past this. We're like 10 weeks into this, and he keeps making these little mistakes, and it's really yes. So yes, I'm minorly concerned about Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think minor is the operative word because they find ways to win. They have so many talented players. Even if he makes mistakes, he just will throw bombs to Gabe Davis and Steph Diggs, and they make plays down the field. And I give the Dolphins a lot of credit, at least initially, in that they were playing, as Tony Romo described, a lot of cover 1 and a lot of cover 0, which is basically man coverage on the outside, and trying to get after Josh Allen, trying to force him to make mistakes, and then trusting their cornerbacks. And Xavier and Howard at times had a tough afternoon. I didn't chart every single play, but I know a lot of times, several times, Steph Diggs got behind him and made plays. But they also were in position to get those turnovers. Trying to think, the second one was a breakup with Cole Beasley. The first one, what happened in the first interception? Do you remember? I can't remember.
One of them was deflected.
The second one was deflected, I think. The first one,
the first one was just he threw it up and the defender just caught it, made a good play on it.
Yeah. So that was all on Josh Allen. But all that said, you still have Josh Allen, and he came into this game, Breech. Oh, there's Brinson. Brinson's back. He came into this game, and he had 14 touchdowns in the postseason and just 1 interception. And that changed right quick. So, Brinson, I'll ask you what I asked Breech. Are you at all concerned about Josh Allen over the next few weeks?
I am. I thought that the last timeline here, but basically Josh Allen went from the guy who was mocked by analytics community, this big breakout, and now it feels like he's a little loosey-goosey. It feels like he's harnessed his powers, and so he's sort of like playing it like a little loose. You know what I'm saying? Like when he takes off running, he's like holding the ball like Shady McCoy back in the day.
Shady McCoy.
Shady be rocking that thing like a breadbasket, looping it up and down. And Josh Allen is, it's almost like it's the stuff that Mahomes does. It's like a one-upsmanship or something. I don't know. He just feels a little too loose with the ball. And you saw, there were several times where, and I don't think all the interceptions were his fault. Cole Beasley coughed one up, but man.
By the way, I'm glad you brought that up because someone just pointed out in the comments. The first one was a bomb to John Brown, Breech. I forgot about that. John Brown ran the wrong route.
Yeah, but
so that wasn't on John Brown necessarily. It was just an arm punt that maybe Steph Diggs catches. But let me ask you this, Brinson. So
I don't know.
John Brown
stopping mattered it. mattered in that play.
Well, let me ask you, on the tail end of that play, Josh Allen was either pissed at himself or at Josh Brown and tried to scrap the Christian Wilkins. And Christian Wilkins said, look, I'm not going to do anything, but if you keep slapping me in the face, I'm going to push you down. I was fine with Christian Wilkins actually trying to block him after Josh Allen decided that he was going to try to make this a thing.
Richard Sherman tweeted out that he's like Christian Wilkins blocked that man the most polite way you could block a man on a football field, where because you don't want to, you don't want to be Wilkins to get called for a flag and because you're throwing a quarterback down. Look, Josh Allen is a supreme talent. It just feels like he. I don't know. Maybe the Bills are pressing a little bit. Is what it feels like, or they took this game too easy. That's sort of what I felt like. It's like they came out and looked sharp immediately, and they do this kind of frequently. I feel like.
Let me ask you this: who else was pressing besides Josh Allen? Though everyone else seemed okay.
No, I mean, there were drops by the Bills.
Who?
I mean, there were multiple balls scraping the ground that were drops or great throws. Steph Diggs. I mean, there were a lot of close calls in this game. Steph Diggs had the one where it was like you watch it, you're like, that's a touchdown. And then you see the replay and you're like, okay, left foot down, but he didn't have total control. There was the Dawson Knox one where he scraped the ground in the end zone.
Yeah, but those weren't people not showing up. I felt like Josh Allen was pressing more than anyone. I'm legitimately trying to remember.
I think Josh Allen's pressing. I think Josh Allen views this as in the AFC, there are the Bengals and the Chiefs. In the NFC, maybe the Eagles come out, maybe the Niners come out, but neither of those teams is favored over the Bills. I think the Bills are. I think Josh Allen's pressing, knowing that this is a real opportunity to win a Super Bowl. And
how much of it is the elbow?
No, I think it's almost fine.
Dr. Breech, do you think his elbow's fine?
I mean, I don't know if it's 100%. There's just throws every week that it just. He makes awesome throws. He started the game on the first possession with an awesome throw, but then there are also others where like, is this the same guy? And it just, I don't know. It just, but he's still Josh Allen. He still makes big plays a lot. And
so you know, if you record like if you record something, right, and there's sometimes the sound is low and sometimes the sound is high. It's like a wide variance. For the last year and a half, it felt like Josh Allen's variance was very like he narrowed the variance down, and now it feels like his variance has grown substantially. Where we're going to get these really peak throws, but we might get some stuff in the next couple of weeks that could really flip a football game and change whether or not the Bills win the Super Bowl.
No, I think we all agree with that. I mean, that's why we've been starting every conversation about the Bills in maybe the last 6 weeks with, okay, how do you guys feel about Josh Allen? I think like the concern beyond Josh Allen, maybe the injuries on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know. Like I don't have a ton of concerns because when Josh Allen's clicking, it doesn't really matter. I think on paper, they match up as well as you noted, Brinson, with every other team, including the Chiefs in the AFC and the NFC. But right now it feels like, and look, Patrick Mahomes has made some loose throws in recent weeks as well, but I don't have the concerns I have with Mahomes as I do with Josh Allen. And again, maybe some of that's elbow, maybe some of that's just Josh Allen pressing or whatever. But I will say this, had they lost this game, that would have been 4 billion, 5 billion times worse than had the Ravens found a way to win that game, Breech.
Yeah. And you know, people look at the score, but this was on Josh Allen. I mean, the reason Dolphins stayed in this game was because Josh Allen was turning the ball over. I mean, the fumble return for a touchdown that Miami got was a game changer that absolutely kept them in it because that gave them the lead in the second half. The Dolphins only put up 231 yards of total offense, and they scored 31 points. You want to know how rare that is? That is the second highest point total in playoff history for the team that didn't get at least 235 yards of offense. So we are talking unprecedented numbers here, and that really shows you how much those turnovers did keep the Dolphins in the game. But, you know, as much as but it's still, you know, Josh Allen might come out and throw for 450 yards against the Bengals next week. So I don't think it's like a huge concern, but obviously you don't want him throwing these interceptions anymore and looking like 2017 Josh Allen with loosey-goosey ball and losing those fumbles that you can't afford to lose. But, man, the craziest thing about this game, how many delay of game penalties is one team going to get and let that cost you I mean, my God, this was painful to watch. was painful.
Let me say this, and then I'll go to that, because if the Bills had lost this game, Breech and Brinson, I both would have expected you to treat Josh Allen like you treated Justin Herbert last night with all that disrespect. So there's a fun fact, or not so fun fact, depending on who you are. Josh Allen is the third quarterback to win a game with 3+ turnovers and 7+ sacks since 2000 regular season and playoffs. QBs are 3-50 with those 3 turnovers, 7+ sacks in a game since 2000, including playoffs. Josh Allen is third. So that's not great. And I think what you're alluding to, Breech, in terms of all the delay games on the other side of the ball, 4th and 1, 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. The Dolphins had the ball at midfield. They're trailing 34-31. Miami decides to go for it. And guess what? Delay game. But not only is the delay a game, they ended up getting close to a minute because they get to the line of scrimmage. They do this, Breech, which means reset the shot clock, which they reset the shot clock. And not only then, they still could not get the playoff. Skylar Thompson's clapping furiously like you always see those guys do.
And the clock got reset at like the 15-second mark-ish, right around there. So that means they got 25 seconds. Then they got 25 more seconds. So that means they got about 50 seconds, and usually only get 40 seconds. They got 10 extra seconds. And they still got called for a delay game.
Do you know what the explanation was from our buddy Mike McDaniel?
I don't want to know.
Do you know?
Yes, I want to know.
I'm just trying to deal with George. This is how I got to delay a game. This dog is an animal.
Brinson's life is a delay a game.
It really is. It really is. It's amazing. This dog just shows up and is like, hey.
I thought Robbie was there the way you're talking to him. So after the game, Mike McDaniel said, Breech, that he got a call, and Brinson, he got a call from upstairs that said they had gotten the first down because I think it was Sabian Ahmed run. So he thought they had a first down. Everyone else on planet Earth knew it was going to be 4th and 1. So he was spending the first 30 seconds calling the 1st and 10 play. And then I guess he found out after, he blew his mouth in his hands to warm his hands up.
He's ripping a vape.
I don't know if that's confirmed or not. I thought he was just warming his hands up. And then by that point, it was too late. But even compounding that with all those mistakes up to that point with 3 minutes to go, it's 4th and 6. In the slot is Tyreek Hill. He runs a little slant, wide ass open. Skylar Thompson runs wide, throws the ball, and it doesn't get the first down, and virtually the game is over.
Well, I mean, the play call I thought was great. If Tua's under center and Tua's, cognitively fine, he delivers that ball to Tyreek Hill, and it's probably a touchdown, honestly. Like, he catches that, and Tyreek's torching everybody down the sideline. Skylar Thompson bailed early because there was pressure up the middle, and then tried to force it on the right sideline. And that's, he's a 6th-round rookie from Kansas State.
7th.
He's 7th, yeah. I mean, he's no Brock Purdy, but I mean, that's a tough spot to be in. You're getting pressure up the middle. I thought the Dolphins acquitted themselves very well in this game.
I made a million mistakes.
If the Dolphins have played a perfect game, the Bills are having a whole lot of soul searching right now.
Yeah, because the conversation starts with Josh Allen struggling.
Absolutely. Well, and that was sort of my initial question was, or I guess maybe I put it in the rundown, but was this the Bills took the Dolphins too lightly? Or is this the Bills aren't prepared to handle the best that Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow could give them?
No, I think when you were gone, I mentioned it that the Dolphins are only in this game because of the turnovers, because 2 interceptions and the fumble
weird turnovers too.
Right. And the Dolphins got 17 points off turnovers, and they only had 231 yards of offense, so what I mentioned when you were gone was that basically they scored the 2nd most points in playoff history for a team that didn't even have 235 yards of offense. So it was like their points were kind of fluky. I don't think you can really say, hey, the Dolphins hey, the Bills overlooked them or anything. And it's the same thing I kind of said about the Bengals Ravens, where it's a division rival. They know you well. All you have to do is survive in advance when you're facing a division rival. Just get out of there and worry about the next game. And the problems probably weren't as bad as they might seem because it's a team that knows you well.
Well, let's say like your Uncle Steve or whatever, he loves to go to sleep at 7 p.m. on Sunday night. He wakes up on Monday morning. The first thing he gets an email from you. It's a box score of this game. He would tell you that the Bills won by, 24 points.
Without
it's just like the yardage and the convert, like the stand, like not the, he's not watching highlights. You just say, here's the stats. I mean, the Bills dominated this game. they just kind of. I'm not trying to dog the Dolphins at all. It's just the Bills. That's the question: or did the Bills? Was this a division rivalry thing, or the Bills a little sloppy right now?
I think it's sloppy. I mean, my takeaway watching this game in the first half was like all the, it's they'll say all these dudes get paid. You're not steamrolling anybody unless, unfortunately you're the Seahawks running into the
17-0, dude. Like you close that game out if you're Buffalo. You're supposed to be a Super Bowl champion.
Well, I mean, you're not if you throw interceptions and fumble the ball.
No, but I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying like you now, if you're Buffalo, more than likely have to go. You have to deal with Joe Burrow coming to Buffalo and then go play KC.
Well, Joe, we just had the conversation. Joe Burrow didn't set the world on fire. It's not like they were.
I know, but they had Skylar Thompson who had them on the ropes.
If you're Buffalo, Huntley and a bad shoulder. I mean, Breech's initial point is that these games, you see these teams so often, they're sort of a wash, and I agree with that. But I think there are way more concerns, it sounds like, from all three of us about Josh Allen, where he's at in his journey, than where Joe Burrow's at in his journey.
Oh, yeah. I think Buffalo is ripe to be sniped by Cincinnati.
Nah, I'm not willing to go that far. I mean, this team is not afraid of anyone, and we saw that through the course of the season. We saw that last season. I mean, they won that Chiefs game except for the 13 seconds, which is a special teams issue more so than anything else, or a coaching issue. If you don't want to, I mean, it's unfair to put on the special teams. But anyway, I told Billy to put this graphic up if you're watching on YouTube, just about how it is funny, man. Like the first 3 weeks of the season, oh my God, Mike McDaniel is the man. He's cool. He jokes around. He went to Yale, and then they're 3-3. Then they rip off 5 in a row, and then they lose 5 in a row. And they're having conversations. Some people on the Twitter machine are talking about he's going to get fired, and they finished.
That was the dumbest rumor of the entire season.
Yeah, I mean, Dolphins fans will tell you that there are issues with getting the plays in on time, and I don't know if my theory should hold with him in terms of not calling the plays, because it seems like it happens a lot, and usually happens with young coaches who are trying to do too much. And at the end of the day, when you have your 7th round rookie quarterback out there in a hostile environment where you have a 4th and 1 and it's not complicated, that to me is a warning sign. And as I said, Dolphins fans will tell you over the course of the season, it's been an issue.
I think the idea, and I mean, it was Armando Salguero at Outkick.com who floated it, that Mike McDaniel might get fired if he missed the playoffs. That speaks a lot more to the disaster that is the Dolphins front office and the organization as a whole than it does Mike McDaniel, who crushed this season. Did they lose in the wild card game? Yeah. To a Buffalo team that was the favorite to win the Super Bowl before the season, and they were down to Skylar Thompson, a 7th round rookie quarterback, against Josh Allen with a fully loaded Buffalo squad, and they lost by 3 points. And if Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill catch a few passes, Mike Gesicki catches some, maybe the Dolphins win this game, and the whole narrative flips, and we're talking about how Buffalo can't close, and Mike McDaniel deserves a raise. So
then that's on you. Because the reality is, I mean, if you don't look at the scoreboard and you say he keeps missing these delay game penalties, we just talked about Josh Allen. They won that game. We're calling out Josh Allen correctly.
I mean, I guess I'm wondering, what do you have a problem with? What's the issue with Mike McDaniel? He's got Skylar Thompson out there, dude. Get the plays in on time. I mean, that's how I just said that. You not think that involves something related to Skylar Thompson? It happened during the course of the season. Skylar Thompson didn't play the entirety of the season. Okay, this is a tangent that we can talk about later. Okay. I mean, I just said that 3 times. I'm doing this to move on for my. No, that's fine. I think it's fair to ask a question about whether. To me, there's no reason to talk about Mike McDaniel's job security at all. I didn't talk about Mike McDaniel's job security. I just asked the question. I wonder if it makes sense for him to give up play calling duties. That's all I said. I want Mike McDaniel calling my plays. That's fine. Yeah, no one. You were arguing with yourself about whether he should get fired. No one thought he should get fired. Okay. Moving along.
And I will close that argument by saying the Dolphins were called for the 2nd most delay of game penalties in the NFL. I assume the Broncos were first. The Broncos were not first, surprisingly. Number 1 was old Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. Yeah, boy. What does their head coach have in common with Mike McDaniel? Yeah, boy. Hey, yeah, boy. I don't disagree with you. I think head coaches should not call plays. That's me hitting the imaginary dunk button. Oh, no, I hit the wrong button.
I'm just stopping by to say, fire Ryan Wilson.
I hit the wrong button.
That was Brinson. Brinson just screams into that machine every night. Fire Ryan Wilson. Right,
I've got RW written on that green button right there.
What does that say, Billy?
Here's a schedule for the divisional round. We're going to get out of here in under an hour. A full recap By the way, before we get to these games, shout out to playoff Gabe Davis. This guy in the postseason just shows up like an animal and it does nothing for the like sporadic events. Saturday, January 21st. We kick off the AFC divisional round games. Not sure why they sit on CBS. Somebody can explain it to our bosses. Jacksonville at Kansas City on NBC. They force you to say Peacock. You don't need to buy Peacock unless you want to watch Yellowstone. And technically Universo. The Jaguars at the Chiefs. Wilson, what is your wins over Wilson number for this matchup? Chiefs are minus how many points is what I'm trying to say.
No, right. Yeah. No, I get it. I'm just doing the math. I'm going to say minus 7.5.
Ooh, not bad. Breech, do you want to counter? It's close.
I mean, it sounds about right. Touchdown.
8.5.
Ooh.
I like the Chiefs at 7.5. I don't know if I love them at 8.5.
I think that we got very lucky that the Bengals won tonight or on Sunday night because it could have been Ravens at Chiefs and Jags at Bills, which has major blowout potential. I do think Doug Peterson can keep it close with Andy Reid. Big rivals. And then you got the Cincinnati at Buffalo. I think that those are two good AFC games. So
the NFL. That's why they waited till like 10 minutes after the game to release this schedule because they were praying that if the Ravens win the AFC match.
They fumbled this ball at the one.
Right. But they're probably thrilled now.
Yeah, Jacksonville, KC is a. I mean, look, you look at the quarterbacks involved in these final games, man. I mean it's good stuff.
I will say real quick, this is a rematch from a game earlier this season. The Chiefs won 27-17. Jags did miss 2 field goals in that game, but the Chiefs also turned the ball over 3 times. So
the Chiefs are going to beat the Jags by 20.
Same Jags kicker, Riley Patterson, or is there a different one, Breech?
It was Riley Patterson.
Okay.
I think the Chiefs are going to beat them by double digits.
All right. Well, then you'll take the Chiefs at the wins over Wilson.
8.5 is a lot, man.
All right.
No one wants to lay 8.5 in the division round game.
Sounds like you're going to.
I will. Giants at the Eagles, 8:15 Eastern time on NFC.
-4.
And NBC on Fox and Fox Deportes.
-4, and I'm taking the Giants all day.
-5.
Boom! You taking Breech?
Billy's correct. -7.
It's -7.
Bang the Giants.
Oh, I'm taking the Giants.
I think
Boom! Gonna have a long weekend.
Let's real quick. Chiefs, Eagles money line parlay. It's -175. Crap. We need somebody else.
Do Chiefs Giants.
I think the Eagles roll the Giants too.
Okay, that's fine.
I think both of those
become best friends. Yep.
I picked him to win the NFC before I ever met you, Billy.
You pick everything all the time, so it's hard to tell which one you're on.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
I'll tell you.
Brinson, did you pick the Ravens to win the Super Bowl? Was it Ravens Eagles?
Did you pick the Broncos with the Super Bowl?
I was just making sure. They're both eliminated. It's all the same.
I'll tell you what's suspicious is that Billy hadn't found any new drops lately.
All right, what else? We moving on? Or you want to talk about?
I think the Eagles. I think the Eagles and the Chiefs win by double digits both.
Okay.
I think I'm probably riding the underdog in both of those. To cover.
I'm taking the Chiefs and the Giants to win.
Ooh.
Chiefs to cover, Giants to win. I think it's where I'm early. That's my early lean. All right, Bengals at Bills. Breech. I'm going Bengals +2.5.
Yeah, maybe 3. I'll go 3.
What's the actual one?
4.5.
I'm banging the Bengals.
Bang the Bengals. Bengals win outright.
And I don't like to do that for my Western New York brothers and sisters.
Yeah, it's gonna take some thought because they're down 3 offensive line starters.
That's a problem.
Joe Burrow don't care.
Is a problem.
Joe Burrow, this is Joe Burrow time, baby. Joe Burrow knows Joe Burrow beats the Bengals. Excuse me, he beats the Bills and he beats the Chiefs.
These Sunday games could get some crazy ratings because you have the canceled Monday night game and then you have the next game.
Oh, by the way, the Sunday game at 3 p.m. on CBS and Paramount Plus, Breech. I prefer you watch it on Paramount Plus.
Yeah,
I'm going to watch it on both. And Brinson asked if CBS would be sad about missing Kansas City, Jacksonville. No, because we only get one game in the divisional round and you want Bengals Bills.
And the final game, we don't have a line for.
I'll give you the line. Tampa Bay at San Francisco. It's going to be San Francisco. What do you want to say?
They haven't played yet.
No, I got the wins over Wilson. Just listen. Okay. Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Tampa Bay game. That game is going to be 49ers minus 6.5. 49ers, Dallas is going to be 49ers minus 50. So take the Cowboys.
What that noise
you know,
was.
The crazy thing is that, like, I feel like the 49ers would steamroll Tampa Bay. I feel like Dallas could give them a good game, and we saw them play in last year's playoffs. But I think that Tampa Bay could beat Dallas, so it's like, if I'm cheering for a good game next week, then I probably want the Cowboys to win.
If you hated the Niners and you wanted them to lose, who would you want them to play?
Dallas.
Yeah, I agree. Because Tom Brady, I can't believe he didn't come up with a revenge game nonsense, Brinson, and then him playing next year in San Francisco. I mean, that was right. That was a late.
He's playing in Vegas next year.
Yeah, I think you want to play Dallas. You don't want to. I would be fine playing with either team because you just keep Tom Brady off the field by running the ball 1,000 times. If you're
I think Tampa is a 7-point favorite against either of these teams at home.
Yeah, I had 6. I think I said 6.5 for Tampa Bay.
5.5. I mean.
And by the way, quickly before we get out of here, I'll update the Super Bowl pool that we're in. Wilson is on his last toe, not even his last leg. Today, I lost the Vikings and the Dolphins. All I got left is
you lost 2 fraudulent teams.
Oh, right. All I have left is the Chiefs.
You're down to one. You're down to one team.
Well, I'm the only person down to one team. Breech, you didn't lose anyone today. You still have Cincinnati and Dallas alive. Brinson, you lost the Ravens, but you do have the Eagles and Jaguars. And Caleb is Caleb's going to crush all of us. He's got the Bills, he's got the Bucks, he's got the 49ers.
Yeah, I like Caleb's team.
What do you
call me if you want to change.
My only regret is that I didn't take the Bengals over whoever.
You're too busy making fun of Breech, and he turned it around.
I was spite Breech. I'm not going to do it. I didn't take the Bengals.
Godly.
That's because I use reverse psychology.
Would you trade the Chiefs for the Eagles and the Jaguars?
No, I got to write this out.
I'm curious if what you're like.
No, because you're going to be out next week, so no, I don't want to trade that. You're losing to the Chiefs and you're losing to the Giants next week, and then
Brinson has his
more likely to lose
pick left, which is impressive. His last pick, Jacksonville, is still in.
Yeah, that is true. You have your.
I take the Bengals. I'd be rolling this thing. I'm such an idiot.
But you didn't.
So I don't take the Bengals to spite you.
Spite never wins.
Breech has me in a figure 4 headlock in the old mind games.
Don't rip off the hair plugs, Breech.
Usually can't get in my head. Breech is in my head.
I know.
The traffic wins.
So. All right, so we'll update that next weekend.
All right, here's the parlay. Divisional round, early parlay to put in now. Chiefs money line, Eagles money line, Bengals money line.
What's that?
Plus 336, which is actually my area code on my telephone.
By the way, we'll do another podcast tomorrow night, so come back for that. Breech, you could be down to one team by tomorrow night as well. Because you have Dallas.
I mean, I picked the Buccaneers, so what can I say?
He doesn't care. The Bengals are alive. He doesn't care about anything else in life.
Bengals are going to win it all. We're good. We're good to go.
That is the beauty of sports. Is like when your favorite team in your entire life is somehow still alive for something decent. You don't care about anything else. Breech's like tiny little tree behind him could be burning.
By the way, Jen Silvius makes a point in the comments. No one picked the Giants, which of course they didn't, but here we are.
And that's the funny thing is I believe that's the only team that made the playoffs that didn't get picked, which tells you that like the NFL season, as crazy as it was, kind of fell how we thought. It's besides the Giants.
Nathan Graber points out too, and I think we're going to float this up the food chain at CBS. Flagpole, food chain, whatever. If the Eagles lose the Super Bowl, Debo and Billy have to co-produce the recap podcast.
Oh,
together on camera.
Oh, maybe the Bengals will win.
I would cry.
No. We do a separate. It'll be like ESPN's MegaCast, where it's just a feed of Billy and a feed of Debo, and you just watch them producing, and they have to produce us giggling about the Eagles crying, which is not great for me because I'll lose money.
It'll end up like when like teammates are getting blown out and they're on the bench and they end up fighting with each other. It'll be like that.
Yeah.
One of them will be the kicking net. The other one will be Odell Beckham.
All right. We'll get out here on this. Robert Thomas has a good question. Rate the playoffs so far. Wildcard weekend. Give it a rating.
Oh, A+.
Grade scale, not a 1 to 10. Grade scale.
A+.
I will say A-.
I think your grades are messed up, and I'm going to agree with Wilson. Even the one blowout we had, the 41-23, the team that lost was winning at halftime. So, like, there's been some suspense in every single game. We have gotten some bad wild card rounds in the past, and Brinson, you owe the NFL apology because you ripped them for
A- is a bad grade
when you have 2 A+.
Yeah.
Y'all
Get on
both
the
say
train.
A+, I say A-.
And by the way, on Tuesday, we're doing the bowl predictions podcast. I can't wait to throw my bowl predictions from last week in your faces. I have them written down here, but I don't want to talk about it right now. We'll get to it in a couple
Wait,
days.
so we all agree that so far, wildcard weekend, awesome.
Me and Breech do. You said they were average.
A- is great.
It's not an A+.
My dad would have given out a kidney if I'd come out with an A- my freshman year.
Yeah, but you're the Vikings. We're the Chiefs.
The first half of the Bills game was pretty long, man.
Oh, it's very long.
All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Hold on. Look at this, everybody. Look at this.
No more Ravens football till
Billy.
Sorry, Ravens fans. Sorry, Ravens.
Show this?
Fans, but this is hilarious.
If this guy falls, Billy, this is on you.
He doesn't fall. Why would I show it if he actually fell?
no more Ravens football until September. If you're
The
watching,
thing people will do to like get likes on
That was
Twitter,
really badass.
I would never even think jump over a railing because I'd be afraid I was going to slip and fall.
By the way, look at this guy's bio. Jersey giveaways and tweets about the Ravens. Get this off of here. This guy leaning over a railing because of Ravens.
perfect end to a perfect season. Thank you, Billy.
But Billy, it's been great working with you. Just kidding.
That was the Gardner Minshew of tweets.
Thanks for watching. Tar Heels. I forget he has that one in the clip. Damn it.
Who
Thanks
day?
for watching. Thanks for listening. For Breech, for Wilson, I'm Brinson. We'll see you guys after Monday Night Football of Super Wildcard Weekend. Bye.